This is the After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
Well, I feel like the biggest dummy. Tim and I were well into our movie reviews when I realized we were doing the show just for ourselves. I forgot to click the live button. It's Friday on the After Party Live. What can I say? The Mark Thompson show ran long and we started at 1:30, but unfortunately, in my zeal to start, I screwed it all up. So I hope you guys can forgive me. And I hope Tim Sika can forgive me as well, because I wait for him every week and now I'm going to make him do it all over again. This is At the Movies with Tim Sika. Re-rack, reset, scene one.
Yeah, well, Kim, we got our muscles worked, so we can just go right into this, and we didn't get too far, so we really are starting for the most part, right?
Gosh, I am so sorry, and I wanted to ask you about. Nikki had asked me last night if you had seen the movie Wicked.
Yes, I have. Now, I can't talk about it too much. I can't give my opinion, but I will do that next week because, yeah, I saw it a week ago. But I can say this. When that movie is released and when Oscar time comes around, Academy Award time, I predict, and I'm usually not too good at this, but if I had to bet money, I'd bet the farm that Wicked will get nominated in every conceivable category at Academy Award time.
Okay.
And I don't know how it's going to fare in the final analysis, but I do think for sure it's going to win a truckload of Golden Globes because it's the kind of movie that the Hollywood foreign press just, drools over. But anyway, so that's all I can say about Wicked for now. We'll talk about it in detail next week. But yes, I did see it, and yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. Okay, it's next week. We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah.
This week we have the movie poster. I think for this one is interesting. It is called A Real Pain.
Yeah, A Real Pain. Kim, you and I talked about a movie called Treasure. I think it was like in June or something, and it was this Holocaust movie. It was about this journalist who traveled to Poland with her dad. Her dad was played by Stephen Fry, to visit the places where he grew up. She wanted to know, where he lived and what he experienced. And he happened to be a Holocaust survivor, right? So This movie, A Real Pain, reminded me of that movie, Treasure. But while the Treasure was more of a Holocaust drama, this is more of a buddy comedy. And I don't know if you'd call it a cringe comedy, but it is at times uncomfortably funny. It's written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg, who played Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network, and it stars Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin as this pair of there they are in the poster. They play this pair of mismatched cousins who reunite after many years apart for this tour through Poland to pay homage or to honor their grandmother who recently died and who was also from Poland. So the inevitable tensions arise between the two cousins on this excursion, which are exacerbated by the fact that the cousin played by Eisenberg is uptight and he's tense and he's conservative in his behavior, while the other cousin played by Kieran Culkin has no filters whatsoever. And they're on this tour with this small group of people. So, it gets, anyway, so some of that's funny. This got really good reviews coming out of Sundance this year. And by and large, I think it's an okay movie, but the critical effusion over it confounded me. I mean, it starts off kind of promising, but after about a half an hour, it just kind of meanders towards this predictable emotional payoff. Some of it is clever, I suppose. There's a certain smartness and crispness to some of the dialogue, and the direction is, for the most part, solid. But for me, it was pretty forgettable and questionable as to whether it was actually about anything. I mean, yeah, it's about reconciliation and forgiveness and acceptance and love, I suppose. But to me, it failed to go beyond the surface of those things. It felt superficial and glib, and it was like cinematic vapor. So I can't recommend this movie. I did my due diligence and I read what others who liked it had to say. When when I have this kind of opposite opinion from other people, other groups of people, I like to look to see, well, maybe I missed something or whatever. But I got nothing from their
No,
fancy ways of saying that they liked it, which is cool. It's good that they liked it, but I don't think I
you're
think
not loving this
this.
movie. It takes
No,
a lot
no,
for you to
no.
say not recommended. So,
Yeah, it was a good effort, but for me, the movie lived up to its title. For me, and for all the reasons I've stated, the real pain was just that it was a real
good
pain.
effort.
It really
Good
was a
effort. Good
pain.
effort.
Yeah,
That's what you say when someone like falls off the balance beam. Good effort.
yeah,
Way to
yeah.
go.
Good effort. I know that sounds so condescending, but
Yeah.
I can't help it. Yeah.
Let's move to the next one. This movie is called Emilia Perez.
Yes, Amelia Perez. God, here is a bizarre movie for
Oh,
anybody listening, and one, like so many films this year, is taking some really big swings. There is nothing conventional about this movie in its
mhm.
premise, or for that matter, in its execution. Now, its premise is, wait a minute, wait. First of all, let okay, this is a musical crime film. When was the last time you saw one of those, eh?
Well,
Um,
usually music happy, crime bad. So,
yeah, no, this is a musical crime comedy drama with this premise, right? Of this ruthless drug cartel leader enlists the help of a lawyer played by Zoe Saldana to help him disappear and achieve his dream of transitioning to a woman. I'm still processing this thing. It certainly is original, you can say, for sure. The songs are by French singer Camille. It's directed by Jacques Ardiard. It's based on this opera libretto of his of the same name. And yeah, the juxtaposition of music and lyrics and dance numbers with the subject matter, drug
murder,
kingpins,
murder, murder.
murder, right?
Jazz
And
hands.
a drug leader covertly undergoing gender affirming surgery.
Yeah, this is
Uh,
a weird movie.
you can't say you see this in your average everyday movie playing at your
No.
local movie house. But it did get a theatrical run, a limited one, but a week or two ago. But it just dropped on Netflix this week on Wednesday. It
Oh,
won the jury prize at Cannes this year, and it won the Best Actress trophy for the entire female ensemble. And admittedly, the film itself is kind of interesting. It's unusual. It's skillful. It's daring. And I have to admit, in the end, it kind of works, not only as a musical, but also as a tragedy. Now, for those disinclined to watching movie musicals, I know we had somebody comment last week when we were talking about Goodbye, Mr. Chips. I think she
right.
said, she didn't like musical movies. But
Sure.
this one could change your mind because the songs per se they're not really songs in the traditional sense. They're more like melodic fragments, more like operatic recitative. It's like sung dialogue that it really advances the plot and gives us more insight into these characters every time they open their mouths to sing. And you never feel like the action is stopping for a song. It's a very organic piece, and with these musical moments very skillfully integrated into the story. I did feel that it was gimmicky up to a point, but for the adventurous film goer, this might just reawaken what it was about the movies that made you fall in love with them in the first place. It may not. It's weird. It's bizarre. I have to admit, I'm recommending it if you want something completely different. But if you don't want something that sounds like what I've just been talking about, you may want to, stay clear of it because it is bizarre.
I
It's
don't know
bizarre.
why, but what you've said and the movie poster makes me think of kind of opera almost, like, crime and killing and murder and
Yeah.
opera and tragedy and drama, that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, apparently it was based on an opera or an opera
Okay.
libretto of the same name. The director of the movie, I guess, wrote one, and I don't know if it ever got off the ground or whatever, but it was part of the process of developing it into what it has become, this movie. So yeah, I mean, murder, betrayal,
Right.
that's all big in opera. And this kind of does work as an opera, but it doesn't have that connotation that most people say, oh, opera's boring and opera's like
Hmm.
too highfalutin. This is not, it's not highfalutin. It's very on the ground, on the ground. And it's, I mean, the way when the character undergoes, gender affirming surgery and still wants to be with her children. I mean, it gets very, very complicated, but it's interesting. I don't know. When I said I was movied out after I saw it, and I took a lot of notes, I thought, I don't even know how I'm going to even talk about this movie. This movie just turned me on my ear.
Wow.
And yeah, like I say, they loved it at the Cannes Film Festival. They gave it the jury prize and they gave it the Best Actress prize. So,
What do you
I
think
don't
of,
know.
what do you think of this one? This one's called Bird.
Yeah, Bird would be classified as the proverbial quote unquote art film. It's very indie. It's
Okay.
done in this guerrilla style, which used to be called shaky cam back in the day. The day meaning, in the 2010s, around that time in movies, this seemed to be the popular style in which to shoot your independent film. Handheld cameras following everybody very closely wherever they went. The camera was on them,
Like
following
the
them
Blair
up the
Witch
stairs,
Project.
down. Yeah,
Okay.
the Blair Witch. Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of dizzying. And then I'm thinking the Beasts of the Southern Wild was a good example of this anyway, but Blair Witch is even better. Anyway, Bird is a coming of age tale. It's directed by Andrea Arnold, and it's about marginalized life within the fringes of contemporary society. It's the story of this 12-year-old girl who lives with her very immature but loving and chaotic single dad. I think he had her when he was just a kid himself. And her brother lives with both of them in this squat in Gravesend, North Kent. She's approaching puberty, and she's got all those emotions. She's in great need of attention, acknowledgement, and adventure. She wants adventure. And basically one day she encounters this mysterious stranger called Bird, who's on an adventure of his own, one which she accompanies him on, and which in turn transforms her own sad and difficult existence. And so basically what this is about is the girl's transition from childhood to adolescence. So it's a
Okay.
coming of age drama.
Yeah.
And I like the film. I'm recommending the film. It's a strange and not always successful mix of the real and the surreal. It was a tough watch in a lot of ways, especially when you realize that there are people living like this in this country and in other parts of the world. Poor people with little
Yeah.
means, parents addicted to drugs and opiates, raising children, adult
Yeah.
children raising other children. The climax of this film was very brutal, and watching it kind of it's so funny. And maybe because we're still in shock over the election, but it kind of, when I was watching the movie about 3/4 of the way through, it slowly became very easy to associate a lot of what I was watching with what we think might be the worst case scenario in this country if it falls apart. But the movie does end on an uplifting and hopeful note with exactly the right sentiment that all who are losing hope right now and are
Right.
worried about what's going to happen to this country need to hear. So it's almost like the last line in the movie made it all worthwhile. So I was left with a hopeful sense about these characters, about this young girl, about the planet. I also liked how animals and images of animals, birds and horses and snakes and dogs and fish and snails and coyotes and butterflies were woven into the plot, implying the connection all of us animals, including human beings, have to nature and to each other. So I recommend Bird, especially if you're in the mood. You have to be kind of in the mood for a sad, arty film, but the satisfying uplift of the ending makes it all worth the journey. I liked it. I was able to look past the sometimes the blending of the real and the surreal didn't work, but I was able to look past it for the most part and found really great beauty in this film.
Oh,
So that's Bird for you.
and that's in theaters?
Yeah, yes, it's in theaters beginning today.
Cool. Okay. And then your streaming option this week is this one, which is a little bit what I don't want to say old, but it came out a while back,
It,
right?
again, I'm playing catch up. I know, and this one came out in
Okay. 'Cause
2018.
I
Yeah,
missed it too. I never even realized this was out.
yeah. Well, it's on Max, so
Okay.
so it's a documentary. It's directed by Susan Lacey, and it's a documentary film that follows the life, career, and social, political, and environmental activism of actress Jane Fonda, whose work spans, I think, now like 6 decades. And you're watching this thing, you're going, my God, what a life this woman has led. She's daughter of Henry Fonda, who is an icon in Hollywood, wife to Roger Vadim, the French film director, then to Tom Hayden, the activist, then to Ted Turner, of all people. And then at age, I think, 63, single and kind of whole herself. This movie covers in great detail all the highs, the lows, the triumphs, the tragedies, the successes, and the failures, and the controversies of this iconic public figure, Jane Fonda. She was born to privilege, but she always made great efforts to reconcile that with those not as privileged or as fortunate as she. And instead of allowing her wealth to shelter her from the realities of the world, she used it. She used her privilege to grow as a person and to get outside of herself. And what always struck me about Fonda, Kim, as a person, great actress for sure,
Yeah.
but she was always self-reflecting. She was always growing, always wanting to be relevant, always wanting to contribute something of value to the society in which she belonged. And she was always improving. And this movie shows all of that. As the title states, it's in 5 acts, and it covers everything from her difficult relationship with her father, Henry, which she kind of exorcised by producing and co-starring in On Golden Pond for him, which won him at the end of his life his first Academy Award for Best Actor. There's a scene in there that kind of helped her come to terms with the fact that her father was not ever available to her or her brother Peter emotionally. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. It's a beautiful movie. It also goes into the success of her workout tape, which revolutionized the home video industry. I think the movie said it sold something like 17 million copies. It also sold millions of cassette players, DVD, not DVD players. What were they called? Video players.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. I didn't realize this, but all of the profits from those home workout tapes funded her and her then husband Tom Hayden's political activism, which was the reason she did them in the first place. It goes into the Hanoi Jane controversy, when, she posed for a picture with the North Vietnamese whom we were fighting in the Vietnam War, which she will probably never fully live down, although she continues to apologize for this day. And of course, her movies, all her great movies. So it's a fascinating document of, one of my, I was predisposed to liking this because I've always liked Jane Fonda. She's one of my favorite actresses and one of my favorite people. And it's streaming now on Max. I'm late to the party, on it, but very glad I finally was able to see it. It's long. It's about 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it flies by.
It's funny that you bring up Jane Fonda because a couple of days ago, last weekend, actually, we were watching Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Did you really?
I did, yeah.
It's a kids movie. We're watching this movie about this, Kraken.
She's in it.
My husband was in the kitchen cooking something, and he could hear what was going on. He goes, and I'm horrible at. You'd think working in radio, I'd be better at recognizing voices. I'm awful. And he turns around and he goes, "Is that Jane Fonda as a Kraken?" And
wow.
I was like, oh my God, it is. And
it is.
And it is her. Yeah, she's Grandma Kraken.
Yeah, very astute. And I didn't know that until the movie was over. I didn't recognize her voice either. I didn't either. But I was watching the credits and I went, oh yeah, oh my God, yeah, yeah. She's busier than ever. She's still acting. And she did Ruby Gillman. Yeah, Teenage Kraken. Yeah, that was a hoot. That movie.
All the movies, but it's funny because I saw her recently on one of the late night talk shows, and she looks amazing. And I love that she let her hair go gray, and she just looks like a beautiful older woman.
Yeah.
And she said she isn't done yet. She said, I have a lot more to do, and I'm gonna, until I feel like I'm slowing down, I'm gonna keep going. So I love that.
She's really, really big on climate change. And she's genuinely worried about not her so much, but her kids and her grandkids and what they're going to have to deal with, because all you got to do is read what the scientists have been saying for decades. And we may be past the point of no return. Anyway, we won't go there, but she's very big on that. And I think she still feels like she's got a lot of work to do in that area.
Heather says Barbarella is great, campy, fun. Watched it remotely via teleparty with a bunch of friends during the pandemic.
Oh, so perfect. Have you ever seen Barbarella?
I think I've seen clips of it, but I've never actually watched the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a movie that actually has kind of improved, with the passing years. When it came out, it was considered like kind of a joke, very exploitive, because the opening scene, she's in space in anti-gravity, and she's floating around, and it's a striptease. She's losing all her clothes in slow motion. Anyway, but that was when she was with Roger Vadim, and she did a lot of that kind of stuff. And then at some point realized, what the hell am I doing? But and the movie goes into that too, and how she never felt complete unless she was with a man. And how it was painful for her to get to where she was today. But Barbarella.
Hanoi Jane meant as a way to join and bring people together, but nobody ever quite understood the point.
She shouldn't have done that, but she was young, and she was, no justification. To this day, she will apologize, like there's no tomorrow. But, she said that's the one big mistake in her life. She actually thought she was being American, but the opposite. I mean, come on, Jane. I mean, really, it was a mistake. But, nobody's perfect. That's how we learn. The fact that she realized and owned up to what she did, and she owned up to all the pain she caused all these soldiers and the POWs, that's again to her credit. Nobody's perfect, and unfortunately, when you're in the public eye like that, boy, everything you do is scrutinized to the max. But,
Jane Fonda writes, Trevor was great fun and it was great, he says, and fun with Dick and Jane.
George
Segal.
George Segal.
Result make was horrible, he said.
I think that was one of her later films. She retired for a while when she was with Ted Turner, which was another weird thing. You would have never thought Jane Fonda would have married Ted Turner, but she says in the documentary, like, Ted Turner's the guy that her father would have been pleased for her to have married. So I think she kind of did it for that reason. And then there was all that money. Oh my God. She said she went to a psychic between, when she broke up with Tom Hayden, which was the longest relationship she had. She was really distraught because he moved away from her, and she was having a nervous breakdown, she said. And Ted Turner called her and said, hey, would you like to go out on a date? She says, call me in 6 months. I'm having a nervous breakdown. And he actually called her, but she said 6 months later, and they went out on a date. But she said she went to a psychic who said to her, this was when she was like all depressed and everything, says, don't worry, you're gonna marry soon, and there's going to be lots and lots and lots of money.
Oh my God.
And there was, because he's a billionaire. Isn't Ted Turner a billionaire?
So. Yeah.
And she probably got a good, what's that called when you
alimony,
prenup or
prenup,
whatever, or whatever. She probably got compensated for that marriage because he didn't want to leave her, but she felt like she wasn't growing in that
Yeah.
relationship, you know. Anyway.
I love her relationship with Lily Tomlin. They're so funny together.
Yeah, and Lily Tomlin is in the movie, and she talks
Mhm.
about, oh yeah, I love Grace and Frankie.
Yeah.
Such a funny show. Yeah.
So let's move on to your classic movie recommendation of the week, and that would be
2001: A Space Odyssey. Who listening and watching the after party right now hasn't seen or at least heard of Stanley Kubrick's science fiction masterpiece, 2001: A Space Odyssey? Have you ever seen it, Kim?
I have seen this one, yeah.
You have. Okay, well,
A
it's
classic
not only
movie I've actually seen. What?
you have. What do you think of it? I'll tell you what I think of it. You tell me truthfully. What do you think of it?
Well, I mean, at the time, it was a while back, so I wasn't much for I was still kind of learning about sci-fi, but
Uh-huh.
I found it interesting.
Yeah, well, it's not only considered by cineasts to be
Mhm.
the greatest science fiction movie ever made, but one that 56 years after its release is now widely regarded as one of the greatest and most influential films ever made. It's the thinking person science fiction epic. It's really, when this movie came out in 1968, it just stood people on their ears because all of their expectations were upended. Because what Kubrick managed to do is he managed to get MGM to finance this gigantic art film that also turned out to be a huge commercial success for MGM. It baffled a lot of people when it came out in 1968 because of its avoidance of conventional narrative structure. Movies usually have like a classic 3-act play structure with the beginning, middle, and end, and this didn't do it that way. But it also thrilled and inspired just as many people because of its pioneering special effects, in many ways still unequal to this day. And these were all done well before CGI. All were done in camera.
Mhm.
And it was also, the movie also had this ambiguity to it that got people to talking. Well, what did it mean? What did that monolith mean? What was that? Looked like that little baby in a bubble floating about. What's that all about? This is the other thing too. It's a science fiction movie. It's very scientifically detailed down to the wire. Watching it today still feels like the viewer is actually in space. Again, I can only imagine the effect that it had upon audiences experiencing it for the first time in the 1960s when it was released, when they were going there thinking it was going to be a regular science fiction movie, and it turned out to be this slow moving kind of, slow. It felt like maybe it was never going to end. But
Mhm.
this is the thing I wanted to bring up too about it being a science fiction movie. I always thought it was a secular film, and yet when it was released in 1968, the Vatican loved it so much that they awarded it with some sort of seal of distinction, and they highly recommended it to all Catholic moviegoers because they saw it as a God-based film, which just
Oh,
speaks volumes to the levels of depth in this movie. I
yeah.
just think it's a transcendental masterpiece on every level. In 1991, it was finally selected by the United States Library of Congress for preservation in the National Film Registry. If you've never seen it, and seeing it on the big screen is the best way to see it, of course, but if you've never seen it, it's streaming on Max. Stream it,
It's
or check it out. Check out the 4K disc. Okay, if you have a Blu-ray or DVD player, or stream it on Max, you need to just relax, lower the lights in your living room or screening room, and let the film wash over you, because its pacing is in sharp contrast to the ADHD pacing of most movies being made today. It's unusual, but you need to let it wash over you and just prepare to be physically, psychically, and spiritually dazzled. I just, for me, 2001 did for movies what Beethoven's Eroica Symphony did for music. Both were monumental leaps forward for their respective art. And
Wow.
this movie still holds up today. I think the only dated thing in it is they're on the space station, and there's a Howard Johnson's on there, and I don't think there are any more Howard Johnsons anymore. But that's the only thing that's stated. But in terms of craft and movies about space, then and this movie was made before we went to the moon, and it turned out to be pretty accurate, even though we didn't know what it was going to look like. What the Earth would look like from the moon. Anyway, it's a masterpiece. It's a great movie, and I'm jabbering on too long about it.
No,
but
that's
I
good.
love it. I love it. I've seen this. I won't even admit in public how many times I've seen it. So,
That's
anyway.
so funny.
Yeah.
All right, let's recap it. We go back to A Real Pain. You said it's an okay movie. It starts well, then it becomes predictable, forgettable. And this is what you said about it. Superficial, glib, cinematic vapor. And you say you are not recommending it.
Ooh, ouch.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did say that, didn't I? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Emilia Perez, a bizarre movie, unconventional, it's original and daring and interesting. You say if you're an adventurous film goer, that you recommend it for someone that wants something totally different.
Yes, absolutely.
Bird, you said about Bird that you recommend it. You called it a strange mix of real and surreal, that at times it's tough to watch, but at the end it's uplifting. And you said despite the fact that it's a sad, arty film, you're recommending Bird.
Yes.
Streaming for this week is Jane Fonda in 5 acts. You love this look at Jane Fonda's life. You recommend it. And this, you say, is streaming on HBO Max or Max.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's just Max now. I don't
Max
know.
now, yeah.
Max, HBO Max, yeah.
And your classic movie recommendation of the week would be 2001, A Space Odyssey from 1968. You called this one a masterpiece. You said it let it wash over you. It also is streaming on Max and worthy of another view if you have already seen it, and worthy of a first-time watch if you haven't.
Perfectly summed up, I must say. Yes, there we go.
Yeah. Well,
and next week we'll talk about Wicked and Gladiator 2.
That's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to that.
I can't wait to talk about those movies.
Okay. All right. Thank you for doing the movie reviews twice this week, Tim Sika.
Yeah. Well, we had fun, Kim,
Even if we were by ourselves.
Yeah, we had fun. Yeah.
At the movies with Tim Sika. Have a great weekend, Tim.
Okay, you too, Kim, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
At the movies with Tim Sika, everyone. A lot of comments from you guys today. He liked 2025, A Space Oddity. Yeah. That's a good one as well. Okay. Est Mama Ever says, I've never seen all of it. This 2001, The Space Odyssey. If it's on Max and you have Max, might as well, right? Yeah. I don't know, Mo, if this is something that's true or not, but you say the Vatican came out and said anybody who throws up in the movie theater while watching 2001 is having demons dispelled from them. I don't know if that's true or not. That sounds gross. Why would you throw up during that movie? I don't know. Yeah. Interesting. Vilma says, old person here. I was working at JoJo when this movie arrived. That's when we landed on the moon. Again, working there. Summer job. You must mean Hojo, Howard Johnson's. Yeah. A lot of thank yous for Tim. I know we're lucky to have him. So excited to have him every week. And next week, as he mentioned, Wicked. And I'm really looking forward to this movie. Just love the voices involved. And Gladiator 2, love the first one. So we'll see what he thinks about that at the movies with Tim Sika. Let's try to fit in at least one or two of the stories that I prepared for you today. One of them is about this distorted street art in the UK. Look at that. How weird is it? This is a new take on common objects. It is distorted street furniture, tied in ribbons, and it's weird looking, but also really interesting. Kind of hard to look away from it. This is a British artist, Alex Chinnock, designing knotted lampposts, twisted telephone booths, constricted post office boxes, as a way to make these public structures more playful in Bristol, England. Here's some more pictures of this. Yeah, the street lamps tied in a knot. Here is the distorted telephone booth, twisted up. Here's another shot of twisted street art. And another. Yeah, kind of interesting the way he's done it. His he's known for this kind of surreal public art installation thing is what he does. He is defined or defines himself as intelligent sculptures that can laugh at themselves, is what he does. So the latest project is permanent street furniture designs in front of the water park in Bristol. It's kind of interesting. So the one with the first one with the street lamps, he calls this one First Kiss at Last Light. This pair of black painted Victorian style lampposts tied together, an oversized bow shape, another pair intertwined in a knot, and both sculptures do operate as functional lighting, so they do let off the light. Uh, he says they're very significant objects with the bow design weighing 300 kilograms and intertwining lamps standing 4 meters tall. So it's not, not an easy task working with heavy objects like this. He said, I wanted to create contemporary sculptures, but in a style and materiality akin to the Victoriana of the neighboring district, the stone wall, the cast iron railings, and the harbor. That period of design, he said, and manufacturing has associations with solidity and rigidity, and the flowing forms of the lampposts subvert with the apparent fluidity. So it kind of takes that sturdiness and makes it more fluid. Alphabetti spaghetti is an inversion of a British post box. So that's what we were looking at. That's the mailbox, the post box, and now it's all twisted up in a big knot. It's interesting how he did it. Anyway, he said, I've made buildings melt, hover, and blend, but the phone box was probably trickier than all of them. The glazing, which was far from straightforward, was slumped over a 5-axis machine mold. He's calling this Alphabetti spaghetti, an inversion of this recognizable British post box with a knotted main body, saying, I try to weave playful but high-quality moments of surrealism into the public realm. He said, I think there's something uplifting about defying reality and challenging convention within the built environment. Which one's your favorite? I kind of like maybe it's because I'm American and the phone box is the phone booth there is so touristy. I kind of like that one. Although this one has some romance, the knotted together streetlights. It's so much better than the public art installation in Petaluma. We have bathtubs on stilts. They have twisted, mangled street furniture. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. This is another story I wanted to make sure I got to you today. This one, have you seen there's a big to-do between Amazon and this website Temu. And I've heard about Temu that it's kind of scammy, is what I understand. That perhaps you order from them and, there's your credit card information is at risk, or you order from them and the order never arrives. This is what I've heard, but I have never ordered from them. But apparently a lot of people do, to the point that Amazon is now coming out with a low-cost online storefront, everything priced at under $20, electronics, apparel, other products, and they're doing this to try to compete with this discount retailer, Temu. Apparently, Temu is encroaching onto Amazon's turf. The company saying Amazon's Haul, Haul, Haul storefront will mostly feature products that cost less than $10. They'll offer free delivery on orders over $25, and they plan to ship the products to the United States from a warehouse that it operates in China. This according to Amazon. The Amazon said haul orders could arrive within 1 to 2 weeks. A lot of them resemble items that are found on the website Shine, Shein, kind of a cheap clothing website, and Temu. Those are both founded in China and both have seen popularity in recent years. So a lot of people kind of lured into to websites like this that are super, super cheap, low cost. Both Temu and Shine have received criticism over the environmental impact of this ultra fast fashion business model. They've also faced scrutiny from lawmakers and regulators in the US and abroad over other issues, including some of the products on their platform. But yeah, this is what they're doing. They've got on this Amazon new storefront haul phone cases and hairbrushes for $2.99, a sleeveless dress for $14.99. So just more cheap stuff because it seems like that's what we're wanting these days. Cheap stuff, right? Yeah. I think I might have time for one more story. So let's do, how about the lotto of the day? Why not? Get a little lotto of the day on a Friday, almost Friday night, Friday night eve. This is a man from Maryland who won $150,000 on Powerball, and it's his third big lottery win. No joke. This guy, if you have 3 lottery wins, do they look into whether you're cheating or not? I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying that might be suspicious. This man told the Maryland lottery officials that he went to the NSR Mart Corner Express 3 times a week to buy Powerball and Mega Millions tickets. The quick pick Powerball ticket he bought during one such recent visit ended up earning him $150,000 when he matched 4 of the white balls and the Powerball. But this is not the first time he's won. Oh no. He scored prizes twice on back-to-back $30 pick four bets as well. So he's going to use this $150K to pay off credit card debt. Sounds like he really needed the money. Maybe he shouldn't be buying so many lottery tickets. Well, who am I to say? Paid off for him, right? All right, I think I can do one more. Can we squeeze one more in? How about the world's biggest drawing? How cool is this? It's got a Guinness World Record. You know it's something then. This is in Nigeria. This drawing is 10,814.5 square feet. It is the world's largest. The artist is a Nigerian doctor with a passion for art. He celebrates the cultures of his country in this massive drawing. He's 31 years old. His name is Fola David Tolaram. He calls this drawing the unity of diversity. He used waterproof markers. He must have used a heck of a lot of them. On this massive canvas, he did it at a 5,000 seat stadium over the course of several days. So it took him several days to do this artwork. And again, you can see it's on the stadium field and all the people milling around looking at it. The picture is a giant map of Nigeria bearing images of various peoples and cultural iconography being held by these hands. He said this, the Nigerian country is a multicultural nation. I wanted to create something that speaks to that and give people an avenue to celebrate their cultures. Before embarking on this record drawing, he said, I took a trip around my country to experience these different cultures personally. And it was this experience, he said, that I brought to the stadium to create this drawing. And he gets the Guinness World Record for the world's largest drawing. Again, 10,814.5 square feet over the course of several days. It's pretty incredible. If you're listening via podcast, you got to go back and check out this picture. It's pretty cool. Well, that, my friends, is the After Party Live for today. And I know we got a late start because this show starts when the Mark Thompson show ends. So that's the way it goes sometimes. But we got some great movie reviews and a couple good stories in there as well. I hope you have a really good weekend. Hope you managed to watch a good movie and relax and kind of mentally detox from all the craziness of the week. And I will see you on Monday. The Mark Thompson Show starts at 11 a.m. here on YouTube, and we've got Gary Dietrich coming in to the show. So it'll be a really good one, and I hope to see you there. Okay. Thank you again. And I do have to say thank you to a couple people before I let you go. And that includes Alicia, who just contributed $20 to the After Party Live. Thank you, Alicia P. And Wes T with a $5 contribution as well. Chris Holm also contributing $7 to the show. So huge thank you to everyone who contributes to the After Party Live to keep this crowd-funded show rolling. The PayPal information is in the show description and in the About tab here on YouTube. And before we check out, please click the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do that as well. Thanks, everybody. And I will see you next time here on YouTube. Bye.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.